Chapter 21 Preparations. Glessa grabbed Verena's shoulders with both hands. "Thank you," she said. "I need to find out who is trying to kill me, and why." "I don't know anything of their motives," protested Verena. "Maybe not, but you know how they operate," said Glessa. "I know a little bit about their magical research," said the human mage. "At least those projects my people are working on. Not much more. I have no idea what they're thinking, and I don't know anything about the inner workings of the Synod." "Something pretty big is going on there," said Glessa, tapping her chin thoughtfully. "The Vidalcan have made deals with the Nim and the Goblins. They've attacked the Leonin, the Trolls, and the Elves. It has to be something to do with some deep, dark secret about the world the Vidalcan have uncovered. There must be someone who knows something about this." Verena shrugged. "The Vidalcan are a lot smarter than humans. They treat us as if we're no better than beasts. It wasn't always like that, though. I've heard tales from a long time ago when humans and Vidalcan worked as equals, but the serum changed all that. It changed the Vidalcan." Glessa nodded. "I've heard about the serum. It expands your mind and gives you insight into the creation of the world." "The serum does more than that. It expands all of your senses. You become aware of the connections between all living things. I've heard it can even unlock racial memories. You can learn everything your ancestors ever knew. Unfortunately, the effect is only temporary, so the Vidalcan need a steady supply. Much of their research goes into finding faster ways to refine the serum." "I've also been told it comes at a terrible price," muttered Glessa. "It certainly did for the Vidalcan," replied Verena. "They turned cruel and used the knowledge they gained from the serum to take control of the sea and everything in it. It has another drawback as well. The Vidalcan have to murder millions of blinkmoths to maintain that steady supply." "That I did not know. I'm glad I never took the serum." Glessa looked at her companion in some surprise. "How do you even know that the serum exists if you've never taken it? Did the Vidalcan ever give it to humans?" "Winds know!" exclaimed Verena. "It is forbidden for humans. The Vidalcan keep it all for themselves. My father once worked on refining the serum. Later he became a research assistant and was able to find more about the serum." "Yet they trade small quantities to their allies," said the elf. She pulled the vial from her boot sheath. "I got this from the leader of the Nim. It was to be his payment for killing me. The Vidalcan probably assume a few vials won't do any harm if the effects wear off so quickly." "You have a vial of serum?" asked Verena. She reached eagerly for the vial, but Glissa pulled it back. "I'm loath to use it," she said, "but it's my only link to the mage who killed my friend." Verena drew back her hand, a sheepish look on her face. "Sorry, I don't really want it either. I gave up wanting to be like a Vidalcan long ago. However, there may be a way to get the answers you want with that vial." "Do I have to drink it?" "Yes, but not here, not now. First, we have to get you to the Lumen Grid." "What's a Lumen Grid?" "Lumen Grid is the crystal fortress of the Vidalcan. It's where the Synod sits. It's where they keep their most prized possessions, the Pool of Knowledge." "A pool of knowledge?" Glissa was skeptical. "I bathe in it and I magically get all my questions answered?" "Something like that. I'm not sure how it works. My father told me tales about it before he was killed. He even tried to use it once." "Did it work?" asked Glissa. "Did your father learn the knowledge of the Vidalcan? Is that why they killed him?" "He only got flashes of images," said Verena sadly. "It was enough for him to realize how horrible the Vidalcan are. That is why he tried to lead our village from under their control." Glissa ran her fingers along her jaw. "How is that going to help me?" "I did some research of my own when I was younger," said her human companion. "After the revolt, I took my father's place as research assistant. I think the Vidalcan wanted to keep an eye on me. After a few cycles, I became nothing more to them than a piece of research equipment. But I never forgot what they did to my father. When the Vidalcan master wasn't watching, I went through his journals and personal research notes. From what I learned, I believed the pool of knowledge will only work correctly for someone who has taken serum. That's why you wanted the serum? Once. I planned to gain the knowledge my father sought so that I could use it to exact my revenge on those responsible for his death. But I'd learned, over time, that there are more important things than vengeance. I dedicated the last 10 cycles to my people, and to my mother. Vengeance is a great motivator, said Glissa dryly. She reached out and touched Verena's shoulder. If there's anything I've learned over the past week or two, though, it's that it must be tempered by reason, or it will consume you. The pause in the conversation grew uncomfortably long. Finally, Glissa said, So, I just down the vial and jump into the pool? That sounds easy enough. It won't be. The lumen grid is impregnable, and the pool room is closely guarded. You have a plan, right? I do. I planned for a long time after my father's death. First, we need to go back to the village. What's there? My father's legacy. Verena controlled the boat while Glissa, Slobad, and Bosch crouched in the stern talking. You think we can trust her, huh? Said Slobad. I don't know. I think so. She lost her father to the Vidalcan. Slobad crossed his arms. She don't like goblins, huh? Neither do you. Her people have feuded with goblins over mining rights forever. That's all she knows above the goblins. She could be leading you into a trap. She could have turned us over to the Vidalcan as soon as we destroyed the Aerofins. She didn't. Now she's risking her life and the lives of everyone in the village, including her mother, to help us. I think we can trust her. Verena whistled softly. We're almost there. I'll land the boat away from the town. Glissa joined her. Then what? I built a copy of my father's diver, she said. It took me 5 cycles to complete, but I never found a power source strong enough to make it work. I know the Vidalcan constructs, especially large ones the size of that golem. She gestured to Bosch. Have a powerful mana source inside of them. Usually a crystal or stone of some sort. I thought we could deactivate the golem, Bosch, and use its power source in the diver. Out of the question, snapped Glissa. I will not kill my friend to get revenge on the Vidalcan. I would be willing to make this sacrifice, said Bosch. My mana battery should be sufficient. He opened up the cavity in his chest and began to reach inside. No, said Glissa. I know you're willing to die for me, you've proven that already, but I need you fighting by my side. I need you to remember your past. We will find another way to get to the Lumen Grid. There is no other way. We need the diver to get to the Lumen Grid. The diver needs a power source. You just get us back to town. We'll think of something. I have idea, huh? Said Slobad. If anyone want to hear what a goblin has to say. Are you sure this will work? Asked Verena later. Simple goblin solutions often best, huh? Said Slobad as he worked on the diver. Goblins no need magic to make machines work. Goblins smarter than magic. Glissa chuckled. She left the mismatched pair to their work and wandered around the storage shed. After they landed the boat, the group had made their way around to Verena's personal shed. The human leader had hidden the diver behind several boats in various stages of repair. It didn't look like much. In fact, it looked more like a goblin artifact than anything else. Verena explained that she used her father's plans, but had to substitute goblin iron for the sleek, silvery Vidalcan metal. The diver was a huge cylinder of rusty iron. It ran from one side of the shed to the other, and was just slightly taller than Verena. It looked for all the world like one of the tubes in the walls of the goblin tunnels, but it was much larger, around, and capped at both ends. Slobad was busy working with his fire tube. At one end of the diver, a thin white line of flame came from the tube, just like the flame Glissa had seen the goblins using on the duct in the great furnace. Bosch held a loop of iron against the front of the diver, while Slobad melted a bar of silver above the loop and the diver. They had already affixed a similar loop on the opposite side of the front end. "Come up here," called Verena from the top of the diver. Gusser scrambled up the side. The mage stood next to the circular opening on the top of the diver. "We'll ride inside the diver. I'll use my wind magic to fill it with air and keep the quicksilver out. Once your once Bosch gets us inside Lumengrid, we can make our way to the Pool of Knowledge." "Won't the Vidalcans stop us?" "It will be difficult to get inside the Pool of Knowledge chamber, but getting inside of it shouldn't be a problem. The Vidalcan don't even notice humans walking around inside their towers unless we are performing some task for them. Then we're tolerated at best, or punished if we're too slow, or if the Vidalcan is in a foul mood." Gusser rubbed her head. "Surely there are mages in other villages who feel the same way that you and your father do about the Vidalcan." "Some do, but most are content to work for the Vidalcan like beasts, and pick up what little power they can. You learn very early to do what you are told. Subservience is rewarded with easier work and better working conditions. Defiance is punished by forced labor in the serum processes, or by the hover guards." "That's horrible." "Yes, but that means once inside Lumengrid, we'll be able to walk around freely. Humans are discouraged from talking to one another, and the Vidalcan won't even notice us. Just keep your hood up." "You think this diver will get us inside undetected?" Verena nodded. "I had planned to pilot the diver in through the waste tubes below the Lumengrid, but with no power, it is little more than an iron tube now. That is why I will have to provide air. I will have to concentrate the whole time we are under the sea." "How long can you do that?" "Long enough," said Verena. "We will tow the diver most of the way, then Bosch will take us down to the bottom." Gustus called out to Slobad and Bosch. "Are you too sure Bosch won't have any trouble under the quicksilver?" she asked. "Didn't the dross get inside of him and clog his gears?" "That took long time. Maybe hundreds of cycles. Bosch okay for a short trip." Gustus looked at Verena. "He grows on you after a little while." "He would have to." Bosch cleared a path through the shed while Verena opened a chest and pulled out a large coil of braided leather. Gusser had seen these attached to boats and the docks outside. Verena tied the two ends of the rope to the iron rings and handed the coils to Bosch. "Wrap this around your torso. I will levitate the diver. You just pull up with the rope. Gusser and Slobad, you will need to guide the diver on either side." Bosch looped the rope around his body a few times, then walked towards the door. Gusser moved to the back of the diver. It floated into the air and began moving. It was a slow process. Verena couldn't move very quickly while keeping the diver in the air, and Gusser and Slobad had trouble controlling it. Several times Gusser pushed too hard and sent Slobad diving to the ground as the diver swung over his head. It was easier once they tied the diver to the boat. Slobad navigated it out from the shore while Verena kept the diver aloft. Once the diver was over the sea, Verena eased it down. It sank about halfway into the silvery sea, but it remained afloat. The mage guided the boat and the diver away from town. "Can't we go any faster?" asked Gusser. "We are straining the power of the boat as it is. I'm afraid to push too hard. I might burn out the mana orb. Then we will be stranded until my villagers head to the Crystal Islands in the morning. We should be able to make it to the abandoned island before the blue sun rises. What do we do from there?" "Submerge." Both the blue and red moons had risen by the time they pulled into the cave beneath the abandoned tower, but Glyssa was pretty sure no one had spotted them. "How far is the Lumengrid?" she asked. "Not far by boat. I think it will take most of the day in the diver, though." "Why not get closer, huh? Not spend so much time trapped under silver water. Seemed dangerous to Slobad." Glyssa answered, "Because someone might see the abandoned boat and get suspicious." She turned back to Verena. "Can you keep the Quicksilver out that long?" "I will have to. The Quicksilver Sea is actually quite shallow. We should be able to ride on top of it most of the way to the Lumengrid." "Let's do it." Slowbad helped secure the rope around Bosch. "If see trouble, pull this rope to untie it, huh?" "Fine," said Bosch. He turned to jump into the sea. "Be careful, huh?" "You as well," said the golem. Bosch stepped off the boat and sank into the quicksilver. Gusser could see the top of his head as he walked away from the boat. The quicksilver swirled around him, covering and uncovering his iron head as he moved. The other three scrambled from the diver. Bruenna dropped down through the opening, and Glusser and Slowbad followed her down. The diver was cramped and dark inside. Glusser could barely stand up straight, and then only if she stood underneath the hole. Slowbad was more at home in the cramped space. He immediately crawled into the back of the diver next to the provisions Bruenna had packed, and curled up to sleep. "How do we see where we're going?" asked Glusser. "Like this," said Bruenna. She waved her hand in an arc around her body, and the iron cylinder disappeared. Gusser could see the quicksilver rippling against the invisible diver, but couldn't see anything past that edge, including Bosch. She mentioned this to the mage. "The quicksilver is completely opaque. You cannot normally see through all of it. That was the hardest part of the diver program. My father and the Vidalcan he worked for perfected the spell, though." She waved her hands again, and it looked as if the sea had parted around them. Well, out past Bosch, at least, where he was supposed to be. Gusser couldn't see him. The golem had disappeared along with the quicksilver. She could see the rope. It was wrapped several times around something no longer there. "Where's Bosch?" she asked. "Invisible," said Bruenna. "It's a bubble of invisibility. Bosch and the sea are still there. We just can't see them anymore." "Will that work on us? It would make getting into the pool of knowledge chamber a lot easier." "No," said Bruenna. "It only works on metal. Take a look at your arms." Gusser glanced down at her hands. She couldn't see them. The human robes covered her forearms. It took her a few moments to get used to where her invisible hands were so that she could pull up the sleeves. When she did, Glusser gasped. Her arms stopped just above her elbows. She fumbled for her sword, but it was invisible also. "We don't want to walk around like this. It would be pretty hard to fight when I can't see my hands or my weapon." They traveled around the Quicksilver Sea most of the day. The rope remained taut, but Glusser could see the horizon move above the surface of the sea when she stood up. Periodically, Bruenna climbed up on top and pulled the ropes to get Bosch to turn one way or another. The scenery was boring. They were in an open expanse of sea. Gusser could barely see the mountains in the distance past the endless silver sea. She wondered how Bruenna even knew where they were. Early in the journey, a group of silver eels attacked Bosch. Somehow they could sense where he was. They obviously weren't made of quicksilver. At least not entirely, because Glusser could still see them. She would have jumped from the diver to help her friend, but the eels couldn't harm the metal man. They tried to bite him and wrap themselves around his invisible body, but they didn't seem to be doing any damage, and eventually turned away from the golem and headed for the diver. It was odd to see them swimming through invisible quicksilver. It looked as if the eels were flying towards them. Gusser recoiled when the eels opened their mouths to attack, but the attacks stopped well short. They banged off the wall to the invisible diver. The eels attacked a few more times, then flew off through the quicksilver wall. While the blue moon set in the sky behind them, Lumen Grid rose up ahead. It looked like an immense mushroom sitting on the top of the sea. The central tower was larger around than the entire Crystal Island chain. It quickly dominated Glusser's view. The dome top spread out from the central tower on either side, seeming to reach out to the horizon. Sitting atop the dome was a massive orb. It looked like a fifth moon, a silver moon, in the sky. Electricity arced out from it, filling the sky with a network of lightning that stretched out to the surrounding islands. Several dozen smaller towers clustered around the fortress. A system of bridges connected the lesser towers together. The lightning, towers, and bridges looked as if they were all joined together, like a giant spider's web.